So I'm one of the hosts at Urban Asian. Thank you so much for speaking with me today
My
about
pleasure.
your new film that's coming out on Z5 Global.
Yeah.
So just kind of jumping right in,
Yeah.
because you've directed, you've produced and acted in the film. What was it like for you to get into the skin of Vinayak Veer Savarkar, and how did you get out of it after filming? What was that process like for you?
Not a very unique question you ask, my dear. Okay, so I was hired on this movie as an actor, and I had no designs of directing it
Hmm.
or co-writing it or putting my own money in it.
Yeah.
I just was on an actor like the son-in-law of any family, just come in and strut around and be treated special and do this job and get out. But what struck me was that I also did not know much about Veer Savarkar, apart from that he was incarcerated in Kalapani and not much else. So that spiked my curiosity. And when I dug deeper and I found out that there was another whole revolution that happened in India, which was the armed revolution, which
Hmm.
finds no mention in the annals of history of our subcontinent, our struggle for freedom. It is quite often said that we got our freedom only through nonviolence, but that's not the truth or the complete truth. So that irked me to dig in more. And since there was not much of a script there, I co-wrote it. And when I co-wrote it, I went through immense research, which helped me subsequently to understand Mr. Savarkar more. And as I went about directing it, I wanted to find a young audience. So I broke a lot of form, gave it a lot of new editing patterns, new camera treatment vis-a-vis a biopic on Indian revolutionaries. And then I break the fourth wall, and I don't make my English people speak in bad Hindi. They speak in English. I treat it more like a gangster film because, as opposed to Gandhi, which I saw, which was very still camera and just a whole lot of conversations,
Hmm.
I kept it more action driven, almost like a gangster film. So, and as going back, it because I was so involved in creating the circumstances which resulted in Mr. Savarkar and the thoughts and actions that he had. I imbibed that through a lot of research, and that's what helped me. There's very little videographic evidence on him, but there is some. So I kind of elaborated on that, and I made myself physically as close to him as possible, keeping in mind my rather larger frame than his, and stuff like that. And any character you play, you have to imbibe their thoughts. Otherwise, why are you there?
So you're explaining kind of the getting into the character and how did, if you became, his personality, you really did the research on him and understood his thoughts. Was it difficult for you after finishing the entire schedule of filming to remove yourself from his character, especially because you co-wrote a piece of the film?
Well, it just tired me out, so I just got it exhausted me, so I had to
Okay.
let it go. It's been 2 months since the release of the movie or
Yeah.
more, um, and I'm still just trying to get back. I'm eating well, and I'm enjoying my new marriage with my wife, and
Yeah.
slowly and steadily coming back to me, Randeep Hooda, as a person. Eating my heart out. It's warm out, very hot outside, so ice cream and beer is something very constant. But then you put on bad weight, so I have to be now. That kind of brings you back to the actor blues of keeping your weight in check and trying to look as good as possible at any time. So that's a way to get out of it. Usually, it's just pick up another project, but I'm not really prepared to dive into another one yet. I've got a
Okay.
lot of personal things to take care of.
Yeah, and you spoke a lot about getting into it as an actor, but I also want to touch on it as a director. how did you, playing the lead role, kind of integrate the storyline and the research that you had done into the different scenes? You kind of touched upon it where you shot it almost like a gangster film. So can you kind of give us a little bit of insight into maybe a particular scene for you that you really felt like, okay, I need this to look differently than maybe what has been done previously in different biopics before?
One is there throughout the movie, the kind of frames that I have chosen
Okay.
and the kind of background music which I got done in France and the editing patterns. So I wanted to keep it quick and snappy, yet hold it at places where it's required for the emotional de- depth to sink in. But I always had a big problem about fitting 53 years of his life and the history of our country in 3 hours without using a narration on top of it. So I used
Yeah.
a lot of supers and a lot of, in my opinion, dramatic editing to keep it in that thing. I had a great team in costume with Sachin Lovelekar, with details of collars, of stitchings, of buttons. Everything is very, very detailed. So is the production design, the spaces we have created, and my cinematographer Arvind Krishna, who has really made it look like an international film. And then, of
Yeah.
course, the aging, the makeup, all the characters look like the real life characters. That was my priority in casting through Parag Mehta. And then the makeup department of making me and other characters look like it and age gracefully with Renuka Pillai being the makeup designer. So I had a great team of people, and my editor, Kamesh Kamra, who did a great job. So it was a great team of people who all were energized by my madness towards bringing this story an alternate take in an alternate way in,
Yeah.
in Hindi cinema, which is just song and dance and frivolous things.
Yeah, and your character and your performance in the film has been lauded in the theatrical release. Yet the character of Veer Savarkar is incredibly polarizing, in Indians in India and abroad
It
as
is
well.
polarized for political reasons, yes.
Yeah, and so what are you hoping and what were you hoping that audiences would be able to take away from his character, from the portrayal of his entire story, as you're saying, the 53 years of which, he was a part of the revolution? What are you hoping that people would be able to take away from it?
See, what I was hoping is not is happened a lot, but there's
Okay.
also been a lot of resistance to it.
Yeah.
Um, See, if you're liberal minded, if you're open minded, or if you're artistic minded, you see different point of views and you decide your own. My very, very woke and liberal artistic friends who appreciate my efforts and my work and everything else, they did not even give this movie a chance because it was about Mr. Savarkar and what little knowledge they know of him. Little knowledge is dangerous. They refused to watch the movie. So I always knew there were going to be people like that, and because this movie came out in the general elections, the polarization on his name was even immense. People were fact checking us falsely and da da da. I did not respond to any of that. I've got all the facts, all the proofs, so everything that I have done, I put in the movie. So I faced a lot of that resistance, and I didn't care. But for people who are open minded, uh, whether you agree with Mr. Savarkar or not,
Yeah.
it's okay. But there cannot be just one sided history in a public conscience and not look at the other aspects of history, which was a bit unfair on the entire armed revolution, let alone Mr. Savarkar, which I wanted to bring to light. And sometimes in comparison to the non-violent movement which took place in our country. And in the end, I kind of proved that it was our armed nation, which was getting armed post the Second World War, and
Yeah.
the British uh, strategic division of our country, which they blamed on religion, made Muslims the scapegoat of the partition, to come out. And in fact, all Bangladeshis, Pakistanis, and Indians have the same history till the partition happened. So it's a common history shared by everyone. And I
Yeah.
also made it in a way when I was in Australia, I used to show Bollywood movies in the 90s to my Australian friends, and they used to laugh at it.
Oh.
And so I always wanted to make a movie which I can show my friends over there, which is Indian, which they shut up and watch. Uh, so this is been made with a lot of those intentions, but I really
Okay.
wanted to get his story across and just just put a question out there. But
Yeah.
some people are obviously, though call themselves open-minded, are really not.
Yeah, and watching the film back, it was incredibly educational. And I agree with you that, art and entertainment, it should also be showcasing, historical education and helping people learn more as audiences. So it was very eye-opening for me as someone who has never really learned about that
Thank you.
portion of Indian history.
Yeah, my purpose is accomplished.
So yeah, thank you so much for
Thank you.
speaking with me about your film, and I'm really hoping that everyone, all the audiences are kind of able to take away exactly what you wanted to put into the film. So thank you so much for speaking
Thank
with
you.
me.
Thank you, darling. Thank you. Take care.